If you've ever worked at a place with a toxic environment, you'll know just how draining it can be and the toll it can take on your mental health. But in the music world, even if the place you're working in has a toxic culture, whether it's a school, a band, ensemble, or studio, walking away from it comes with a price. Traditionally, you'll be called a quitter, weak, and the perception is that you never had what it took, or that you were never truly passionate about music. In other words, you were never a real musician. Well, in all honesty, that's an old and outdated mindset, and it's why so many musicians, particularly in the classical world, burn out so severely, struggle with depression, and battle anxiety on a daily basis. But thankfully, the modern classical musicians of this generation are fighting back and changing this attitude, normalising things like walking away from ensembles with toxic cultures or breaking outdated rules by blending different styles of music like jazz and pop into their classical repertoire. And this is what my guest today, Esther Ling, a pianist and teacher from Calgary, Canada, wants to share with every musician today, young and old. I was really moved by our conversation because she is as resilient as they come. We talked about her upbringing when she struggled to find the balance between academic expectations and wanting to learn the music that she loved the most. She also talked about very honestly and openly about how working with difficult people during COVID led to a period of deep depression and anxiety, but also how she found the courage to keep fighting on, to be true to herself and become the musician she always wanted to be. Oh, and she also went back to music school, and mind you, she did this during COVID whilst trying to keep two kids entertained in lockdown. Seriously, this woman is amazing and as tough as they come. Anyways, my name's Brian Zhang. Welcome to the Mental Musician Podcast. Let's get on with the episode. I hope you enjoy this one because this is one that really touched my heart. So we're live now, but I'll do another intro that leads into this. So, because whenever I've done this, it's like, hi, hello, good to see you, Esther, even though I said hello 14 times before. So, I'd like to think that you are, what I like to call you, Esther, ever since connecting with you was the start of the 2025 year, is you are the modern day classical musician that I don't know if, for me, you're sort of rebelling against the modern classical musician because you play jazz and pop music. So
Yeah.
if you've been ostracized, that's okay. You
I
can
hope
come,
that's okay.
you can come to my mob. But not only that, you're a teacher, you're a writer as well. You're the modern day contemporary classical musician, and you're also open with your mental health as well. Yeah, I'm going to do we'll do our best to keep things positive, and we'll start on a happier note. I know that we've talked before, and reading through your website and bio, Esther, for me, you use music as a way to say things and get words out, otherwise that you can't really say in a conversation. Did that make sense, what I just said?
Yeah.
So,
It did.
no, for
Yeah.
you, how does music help you be you? How does it help you make sense of the world or make sense of your experiences, whether they're big experiences like playing in front of the Rocky Mountains or even just at home?
For me, it's I'm a piano player, and so to me, whenever I'm finding it hard to make sense of like something I've seen in the world or I've heard, I find that going to the piano for me just keeps me calm, and it has always been a safe haven for me ever since I was a child. And of course, when I was a child, I probably didn't know what was going on, but I just knew that I was drawn to this big furniture that makes music. and it was just, I think, because it created beauty,
Mm.
and then that beauty, which is the music, was very calming and sensible. And then just by expressing it that way, it helped me navigate through whatever challenges that I was experiencing. And as I grew into my teenage years, of course, then it definitely became like a really good friend.
Mm.
Yeah, it's almost like a friend that would always listen to what you have to say. And then through that voice coming into the music, it allows me to express something that I can't normally say in words, or I can't normally face another friend, or a face-to-face person and express it in words. And yeah, that's for me. Like I just find that the beauty of creating beautiful music out of it helps me make sense of what's going on in life. And most recently, because I just returned to study music formally just a few years ago, I learned songwriting. And I was like, wow, like I didn't know you could do this. um, that was really fun. And I think it added more layers to what I can do with music. And songwriting has really helped me create more complex, beautiful music with lyrics added to music. So that's been a really fun and beautiful journey. And I'm still learning a lot, and I'm still writing. So yeah.
No, that's really nice. I feel I can relate to you with how music is that friend that friend you never had, or maybe a friend you did have.
Mhm.
Imaginary friends. It's okay when you have imaginary friends as a kid. As an adult, that's weird. Uh, but
Yeah, we
no,
don't tell that, right?
yeah. I'm hearing things, but it's coming from this
Yeah.
music instrument. Mine was a guitar,
Yes.
and especially for me when towards the back end of high school, life was a bit challenging. So that was it was a friend. It helped me with depression, even if I couldn't
Yeah.
understand it. Was that like for you growing up? Did you have a lot of friends in school, or did you like going out? And were you like a? I mean, how can I put it? I want to say normal kid. I want to say normal kid, not in a derogatory, but like, did you just go to
Well,
birthday parties, go to the park, or were you mainly at home and you know the piano
I
was the main thing?
yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, I have friends that I see and hang out in school every day. But so I was born and raised in Malaysia,
Yeah.
and so going to school in Malaysia, and I don't know if it's like that in Australia. I know it's not like that in Canada, that's for sure. But it was a very stressful childhood. We
Mm.
go to school, and then after we come home from school, there was really no time to play or hang out. Like I eat my lunch, and then I'm going to tuition, like additional tuition classes after, just to supplement what I'm learning in school. And then on top of that, I had piano lessons.
Mm.
And so it was just a lot of homework. And so I spent quite a lot of time at home. I didn't really play much sports. Like it's not like in North America here where a lot of the sports activities occur after the school period. It wasn't like that for me. I did my sports stuff in the the school period itself, but never nothing outside of it. So it was just homework, tuition, and music for me. And yeah, that kind of really was my life. Oh, so sad now.
It's like the
But
Asian Chinese, like any the Asian Chinese starter kit, you know?
yeah. Yeah, and I think, and my parents were supportive of my piano lessons, but I think they definitely, I guess, realized the importance of just succeeding in academic first.
Hmm.
It was always, you have to put your academic studies first, no matter what, right? And maybe that's how it was back then. I don't know if it still is now like that in Malaysia. Maybe things have changed. But yeah, when I was growing up, it's quite a tightly packed schedule of just studying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, from what I hear nowadays, given there's more Western influence with education and more
Mm.
integration with, pop and pop culture, it's simmered down a bit, but it's still nowhere near to the more laid back levels of North America or even Australia. To me,
Mhm.
I can still relate to you, even though I grew up in Sydney. My
Okay.
parents, my dad's from China, my mum's from Vietnam, and they valued education above anything else. And we have just like Canada and US, North America, we have a strong contingent of Chinese, Korean, Hong Kong, Malaysians,
Yes.
Singaporeans, all those Indians, Sri Lankans. So, and
Mhm.
education is up there. And it's interesting how you talk about music being this safe haven, this thing of beauty, for a way for you to, feel calm, enjoy life as well. And yet,
Mhm.
music lesson and my parents also they sent me to music lessons as well, and all my friends, they did piano, violin, clarinet. They're probably all more qualified on paper than I am, you um, but it never sounded fun. Like, what they were doing was, the exams and constantly doing the Hanon practice as well,
Mhm.
and the
Oh my
pieces
god.
they were playing. Like, I could listen to Beethoven, Mozart, Stravinsky, and I'd enjoy it.
You're right.
And there were movies back in the late '90s and 2000s that had classical music. But the moment you
Yes.
start learning it, it's like, what? Like, gee, that's, you're already putting yourself in this bubble of stress with tuition, and you wanna make music not fun as well. I know
Mhm.
tuition, especially in Hong Kong and Korea, is, you go to school and the classroom's kind of there, but then
Yeah.
a lot of kids will go go to extra tutoring until 9, 10 o'clock at night. Um, and if they are playing music, it's treated as this academic pursuit. It's not this creative pursuit. Uh,
Yeah.
and I guess there's a classical influence in that. Um,
Mhm.
but I'd love to ask, like, when you were, if you can remember, when you were having piano lessons with, I'm sure you had great teachers who taught you who loved music as well. But
Mhm.
did did you love music growing up? Or I know this sounds like a weird question, but anytime I talk to friends or other musicians who grew up, in the Asian bubble of
Yeah.
having, you gotta practice 12 hours a day, and you gotta learn all your music theory, you gotta do grade 8 exams.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I'm so lucky I didn't do that, but it just didn't sound fun.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
I mean, I'm with you on the the not fun part. That's really yeah, I remember growing up, that really wasn't the fun part of I had to do the conservatory exams,
mm,
and I don't know if Australia does the same thing, ABRSM.
yeah, yeah, we
But
had that, yeah.
yeah? Okay. Yeah,
Trinity
so
as
I
well.
did yeah, I had to do it, and when you're young, you just follow instructions, right? It's like, okay, teachers tell you to do this, and you do this. But I think I did reach a point when I was, yeah, in my early teens where I was probably questioning, why am I learning this and sitting for the exam? Like, what am I trying to get out of it, right? But the backstory to this is, when I was young, so I started when I was 6 years old. And my mom told me, she took me to sample a dance lesson, so learning ballet. And then she took me to sample a piano lesson. And I chose the piano. I was drawn to it. I liked it better than dance, apparently. And so my parents weren't very well off. And they decided that, you know what, if we're going to invest in this $2,000 acoustic piano, like back then we didn't have digital pianos that were $300. So it was like a big investment for my parents. And it's like, okay, if you're doing this, we're doing it all the way. You take all your exams, did it go grade 1 to grade 8. You have to finish it no matter what. And so I think that part of the deal was kind of stressful in a way, because when I reached my teenage years, then I started rebelling a little bit. I'm like, it's really not getting any fun, and the skills and the technique, they're just getting really hard. I've taught piano to students too, and I find the material very difficult as you go up the grades. It's very nice and fun in the elementary side of things, learning the nice folk music and simple classical tunes that everybody's familiar with. But it gets to a point where if you're not practicing, like you say, 12 hours, okay, maybe not 12 hours, but say maybe like even 2 hours or an hour every day. If you're not putting that into your schedule, or if parents are not helping to put that schedule into the kids' schedule, it's hard. It's hard to get to, all the way there. And so for me, practicing, I did not like to practice. That was really not the fun part for me. And then what kept me going was pop music. I started to learn things by ear, by myself. And my teacher wouldn't teach me pop music. And I get that, she has a limited amount of time, and she has, plans for me for learning the classical rep to sit for the examinations and stuff like that. So she has to follow certain rules. And I think for me, I was just starting to learn pop music on my own. And I think that's really what kept things fun on the side. I would just go to the piano. If I hear a Chinese mando pop music, a Jackie Chung. I don't know if you know Jackie Chung.
Jackie Chung. the Hong Kong Chinese stuff.
Yeah, Anita Mui, like these Hong Kong stars that my parents love to listen to. And so I naturally, I hear a lot of it on the radio or the TV or whatever. And so I was like, why can't I play this music? This is fun. Right? And then you would go to the bookstore, and then I would see these books that I never see at my piano teacher's studio. These bookstores have these arrangements of popular music. And by then, I was able to already read music quite well. The only thing that I didn't quite understood then was the pop chords.
Right.
Yeah, like the lead sheet style, like the pop chord stuff. So, but I had an idea. I sort of had an idea. Okay, this is a C chord. I don't know what the /E is, but it's a C chord, I think. And I would just tweak and learn things all by myself, by ear, and that's what kept it fun. Now, don't get me wrong. I love classical music, like you said. I love listening to Chopin. I love listening to Mozart. I have a couple pieces that are very dear to me. Like I listen to when I'm feeling really, sad. Yeah, and there's all these other beautiful, beautiful classical music that are great. But I'm really with you there. Like when it comes to learning it for a performance on exam, then I'm questioning, like, am I doing this? It's really not that fun. Oh, and it's tough and it's hard. And my teacher says to do this, but I can't stretch the octave. So what do I do?
No.
Yeah. So it's things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I had friends who, they were so intense with their practice and the way they went about it. Practicing hours and hours a day, doing every possible exam that was available to them. They had teachers that, were charging $200 an hour, and after a while,
Wow.
they and this was mid-2000s, late, early 2010s, so even that at that time, that's nowadays is pretty standard, but even
Right.
then it's a lot, and, some of them
Yes.
would get tennis elbow, some of them they'd probably have carpal tunnel syndrome now at 25 years old,
Oh
and
my.
maybe, and the moment that they finish their last exam, if it's grade 8 or if they do Suzuki, which, I know is controversial, but, maybe that's a better method, I don't know, but once they finish all the exams, then they just they just go, "I do not wanna touch an instrument ever again." They love music, but they don't wanna learn it, and
Yeah.
I know I don't wanna sound like I'm shitting on this method, but I think the good thing the one thing is that, from what I know, is that a lot of the way that it's structured is based on how, Europeans learnt it, and how
Mhm.
it comes from a very European sense, and then if you mix that with, as you said, your parents put such a great investment into it, Yes, there's the high class people who, they send them to the great, the Royal Academy or whatever, and then you
Mhm.
have the working middle class, parents like your parents or my parents who say, "Okay, we're gonna invest, um, a few $1,000s on lessons a year, and instruments for you, and you have to repay us," not because we're gonna force you to do it, but
Right.
that's just how family works, that's just how life
Yes.
works, and if you don't, then you're a disappointment. I
Yeah.
think the moment I chose the guitar, I was already a disappointment, so,
Oh,
um,
was it? What was your
I'd
what was the initial like, what did your parents wanted you to learn? Was it piano?
Yeah, yeah,
Or
my
Oh,
mum, she had an electric keyboard, one of the old Casio
okay.
ones with all the noises, the sounds. She brought it out from the garage one day. I I think I was 6 or 7 years old,
Right.
and I played it for about half an hour and went, "I don't wanna do this." I like, up until then, I had been in and around guitars, like, I'd played, some toy guitars, and here we had the Wiggles as well, so I wanted to
Yeah.
play the guitar with Murray from the Wiggles, and eventually I started having guitar lessons. I think my aunt from Vietnam and my grandma from China, they brought me an electric guitar, an
Oh,
acoustic
wow.
guitar, and the first couple of teachers I had, and this is why I understand the structure and the method, like, they're 2 as connected as the music community is, it's like there are several it's like the multiverse, there are several different worlds,
Yeah.
and, you know, there's similarities with how, children learn, but there are just
Mhm.
slight differences that can alter, how you think and feel about it. But for
Right.
me, for typically, if you get a guitar teacher who, here in Sydney back in the mid-2000s, it's someone who just played in a lot of rock bands and just
Mm.
knows how to play the guitar, knows how to give a good show, and the first few teachers I had were like that, where
I
all we did was play songs. I think for the first 3 or 4 years, I had he had 2 other students older than me who had lessons before my lesson, and they'd hang around after the lesson, and then after I'm done with mine, we all just had a jam. So to me, whenever I'd friends saying, "Oh, I gotta go to the Conservatorium of Music," or "I gotta practice for my exam," it never made sense to me. I'd be asking, "What songs are you playing?" And I think, "What do you mean song?" Bon Jovi, Green Day, Guns N'
Right.
Roses, or even just
Oh, so
the
fun.
Beatles, Elton John.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Did you mean pieces?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, pieces." So and that's how I learned my technique and skill, and my teacher, he knew music theory as well, like, he had a
Right.
great knowledge of it, like, he'd be explaining, "So you play this, you listen to that," and, we might dabble in jazz and say, "Okay, we start adding some 7th chords, start swinging, this is a swing beat versus a rock
Right.
beat," blah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, my mum, she wanted me to play more classical music, so eventually when I moved homes, there was the teacher I had afterwards. He still loved his rock and roll music, but he had more classical training. Like he knew how to play the piano. So there was a
Mhm.
lot of music theory, and whilst I didn't have a lot of fun during those lessons, that was probably where I learned how to read music properly.
I
Um,
see.
but that's where my love for music at 12, 13 years old started being sapped away. So after that, I started just learning music from YouTube videos, some of the great acoustic guitarists, just listening to music and copying them, getting the old DVD instructional videos. So I'm lucky that I didn't go down that pathway. And my parents, especially my mum, she wanted me to go down that pathway. Um, and it's probably that, once you get that certificate, I know it's easy to say it's just a piece of paper, but I think with the way I did it, there's nothing really to show for your accomplishments unless if you start performing on stage a lot. Whereas
Mhm.
with the other way, um, if you get certificates, like, good job. It's interesting how now in the UK and also Australia, rock and pop music has been um, turned into an academic pursuit as well. We have exams for rock and pop music,
Right.
and there's always when I ran my music school, I had tutors who followed that. I had parents who followed that, and I'd have a
Mhm.
lot of arguments with them about that because pop music and rock music never ever came from an academic grounding. It was always rooted with just someone working things out and a very sort of humble upbringing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, to put it in a positive spin, I think there's still both sides of it, and the good thing about
Mhm.
conversations like this I'm having with Yes is that we're trying to find a way to balance, strict discipline practice, but making
Yeah.
sure that it doesn't kill your confidence or you're not tortured whilst you're
Yeah.
doing it, and to still enjoy it. Because for me,
Yes.
music it's like sport, you got to work hard. Like the best athletes or musicians, they work hard and they put a little bit more time than the ones who aren't wanting to turn it into a career. So
Mhm.
so you still have to do that, whether or
Yeah.
not. But you don't have to practice 12 hours a day. Um, you know,
Not like the structured, I guess, European way of learning
Yeah,
classical.
absolutely. Like
Yeah.
if you're doing it 12 hours a day,
Yeah.
but you are enjoying it, like kids like I compare it to sport a lot. Like some kids,
Yeah.
they'll like I played a lot of sport and I would play in the morning, have lunch, play in the afternoon, and you'd be absolutely exhausted at the end of the day. But you're around around my teammates and it's a lot of fun. You're running around a field, whatever it is, and I wish music could act that way. And I guess that's why there's the rock and pop world, and then there's the classical world. Jazz is kind of
Mhm.
strange, where kind of
Has
uh,
his own
you know,
little niche.
they want to
Yep.
they want to be disciplined, but then when you're on stage, you see them just having a great time. They're drunk as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's interesting how. Yeah, that's probably the beauty about music. There's no right or wrong way, although each group will think, no, we are the
Yeah.
right way, and say that's wrong. Rock people will be like, I don't get it. I'll play canon rock. You know, that's
Mhm. And there's many ways to blend different styles of music together. I mean, look at all how, like even, Ray, the artist that released that orchestral song. I mean, she worked with Hans Zimmerman, right? Like, I mean, just
no.
blending her rap and
Mm.
and orchestral music, like that's just bringing both worlds together. That was really really interesting to listen to. And there's so many other musicians that do that. So that's one positive way of kind of, saying, hey, we're all musicians. We have our different styles, we have our different genres, but we play music.
Mm.
And that's the whole point of creating art and bringing people together. And I think you brought up a really, really good point of, you know, learning the classical techniques, maybe, right, from a certain school, but also having some room, being open minded to a different way of learning and allowing that into your life, because there's no right or wrong, like you said, right? Like, there's classical music doesn't just rule, or jazz music doesn't just rule the world. Like, we're all in this together, and they're all born from different sound experiences as well. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like, someone like Oscar Peterson and Herbie Hancock, they both had a strong foundation in learning classical music, especially
Hmm.
Oscar Peterson. You could tell from the way he
Exactly.
played, and Herbie Hancock, he'll go back, and I think in his biography book he was reading it, when I was reading it, he talked about how for up until 13 or 14 years old, he was really only learning classical music, and that formed his foundation. And then in the guitar world or in the rock world, someone like Eddie Van Halen, who would
Hmm.
you'd think has nothing to do with structured classical music, like the melodies that he solos that he's played. If you slow them
Yeah.
down, there's so many different elements from Bach, and
Yeah.
and of course, you can just slow it down and then change the rhythm and the feel, uh,
Yeah.
without the smoking gun as well at the end, or the cigarette at the end, so you can get rid of that. I
Yeah, and that's why that's why these stereotypes are born, right? Like, because of where they're being played at, and then they also, touch on the musician's background and all these things that tie it to. But, I guess that's just the way, the nature of where art is born, right? Like, it comes from somewhere, somebody's experiences, somebody's story. And I guess back then in classical music, it was just all about that, right? But then we've evolved
mm,
so as music. So I sometimes find when I teach my students, I try to make it, they have to learn some classical technique, just like in dance, right? Like, ballet is usually known to be the classical technique that a dancer starts off with, but then they can branch out
mm,
to try other types of dance. So I try to keep that rooted in my teaching, and then also teach things by ear, because I think there's a lot that you can learn by listening.
mm,
And sometimes I find that because classical music, you know, has just been it's just from such a long time ago.
yeah, yeah,
Generations today, unless you give them a reason to listen to it, they won't go looking for that music, right? When Taylor Swift is all over the radio, why would they?
no,
I mean, for me, I remember growing up, and because I was watching a lot of cartoons and TVs, it was all like Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes, like all these. They all had classical music, and you're always watching it. You're exposed to it, and I think that's how I have a love for it too. But then when I watch my children growing up, I have two kids, and they're watching so different things than what I was watching when I was 7, 8 years old. And the music that they're hearing is electronic pop
mm,
music, like dance music. And my daughter loves Taylor Swift. And
yeah,
so it's their experiences that's why, they're drawn to it, right? This doesn't necessarily mean that classical music is bad, but, I think they just don't have a reason to listen to it,
mm,
I guess. So yeah, it really, really is all about the exposure, and maybe if schools, I don't know if schools in Australia have music programs integrated into the public school education system. But if schools can give a little bit more exposure to children, then maybe children would have a reason to go explore and search and listen and even write new
mm.
age classical music, right? So yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can get your kids to go and watch the classic movies from
Looney
the '70s,
Tunes.
'80s, yeah, like Looney Tunes, or, just get them listening to John Williams, the son
Oh
of
yeah.
the
Yeah.
Superman, Harry Potter,
Yes.
all that, so
Yes. And
E.T.
that's why Harry Potter was so popular with the
Yeah,
kids, right? They just know the music because
yeah,
of that. that movie. Yeah,
Gotta get
exactly.
or Disney music, especially early Disney music.
Yes. I find that the animation movies these days, they incorporate a lot of pop music, not so much instrumental,
Mm.
not as much as like say 10 years ago, but yeah,
Maybe if you
a
get
lot
them
of
on your next road trip, just play, the entire Mulan track.
Mulan, yeah, yeah.
That's one where just belt out every now and then, especially "I'll Make a Man Out of You," change the
Yeah, yeah, my
chord
daughter
change with that
used
one.
to sing that when she was young, but now she's just singing Taylor Swift. I don't know, it's just, every day
Yeah.
there's a new Taylor Swift song that she's singing.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's
he did
good.
the
I
Toy
I think
Story 5
Taylor
track.
Swift songs are good, but yeah.
It's either Taylor Swift, Sabrina Carpenter, BTS, Blackpink, all these
Yeah,
what was it, Demon Hunters as well.
K-pop Demon
Yeah.
Hunters, yes, yeah, and look how that, like, really took over,
Yeah.
right? It's just so influential, and I wonder, and I don't know if you have the same, uh, thought about this, but I find that for the generation of kids today, they are really, really they need a visual tied to the music.
Mm.
So whether it's a movie or a YouTube short or something, like, yeah, it has to catch their attention with the visual, and then the music makes sense to them. I don't know if you feel the same way, but that's kinda what I've been questioning. Just watching my kids grow up, and I'm just like, "Huh, okay."
I
'Cause they will talk about the music, but then they will always say that there's a video about this, there's a video about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It
interesting.
it it's either attached to a YouTube video, a viral TikTok, or a meme, and it's not just kids. I have my girlfriend's colleagues, they're around the same age I am, late 20s, early 30s,
Mhm.
and they're humming and singing all these things, and supposedly they come from memes and viral reels on TikTok and Instagram. And I
Mm.
when I doom scroll, I don't doom scroll over that stuff. So when she's singing it, I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, what was one of the very first songs that think was very much in this way was the Harlem Shake. I think it was back in 2013.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
everyone in school was like, "Do the shake," so you gotta watch this video. And then but that was fun, and everyone started, we all did our own version of Harlem Shake. I remember in school, we were in the playground or in the soccer field, and we just got, like, we got about 30 of us, and then we go nuts, and my friend, he uploaded it on YouTube, got a few thousand views. And um, yeah, there was that. There's Lonely Island. That was probably,
Mhm.
going back even more. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's good. Like for me, I've always said that, despite, you know, music is like food. It's very subjective. It's never 100% objective. Like you could say I don't like it, but that's because you don't like it. Doesn't make it not good. Someone else is
Yeah.
gonna like that. So
Yeah.
if more and more kids now are learning or getting into music because of meme this, real this, then as much as it's not the way that I did it or you did it,
Yeah.
then that's okay. Because if more like I had so many kids when I was teaching last year who just every week, every day was the Demon Hunters soundtrack. And eventually, it got stuck in my head, and I watched the movie. It was a good movie, very good actually. I
Yeah.
liked it, and
Yeah.
they'd be singing, "Yeah, my little soda pop," and
Yeah.
just it gets stuck in my head, and eventually you can't get it out of your head. And to be fair, if I say, "Gee, these songs are so annoying, and they're not really well written, the lyrics are so cheesy," I'd say, "Well, to be fair, songs like Hey Ya, Bop,
Mhm.
yeah, James Brown's I Feel Good, there's not much going on there either." So,
But it makes you feel good,
yeah,
and it's catchy, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, we try to find both sides. If people,
Yeah.
I don't wanna like, I'm not old, but if I'm like the old man shouting at the window, then
Yeah.
I gotta stop myself and say, "Well, there were a lot of songs from the early 2000s that were just like the songs today, where they're just repetitive, 4 chords, lyrics
Yeah.
that anyone can write, and it's just
Yeah.
easy, catchy music. It
Yeah.
it's
It just
it's in every
looped.
era. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. There's just, so much music out there that you wonder sometimes. But then you also think, these people who do amazing covers of a pop song. Like, how did that happen, right? Like, I mean, it's just I feel like, there's a bit too much maybe emphasis on uh you have to play what's written on the page in classical music. And for me, like I love to listen to and I love to watch John Batiste. I don't know if you know,
Oh, yeah.
he's a really famous piano player. Um and just even him turning a simple Beethoven music into a blues.
Mm.
That's so cool. Like, I just think that, if we can if young, the future generation of music students, if we're able to somehow shape that sort of education and allow that sort of improvisational skill to come in a little more confidence in trying to make mistakes, because improvising is making mistakes. It doesn't sound right the first time, but then you keep doing it by ear, and you couple that with techniques that you have.
Mm.
Um, like what sounds right and what sounds wrong is really subjective, depending what you're trying to do, what you're creating with that art. And yeah, I just think that it's just so cool. Whenever I hear about somebody doing an amazing cover, or like taking a classical music and turning it into some really cool rendition of a jazz or a dance pop electronic style kind of thing. I think it's really we should celebrate that instead of saying, "Oh yeah, that's trashy. Like that's not real music." So I think it's still music. People enjoy it, right?
Yeah,
So yeah.
good music will be good music, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from good music comes, many other different versions of it. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so I want to move away from the educational side, because we could rant on about it for hours. But
Yeah, sure.
um, so talking about mental health, and as I said at the start, whatever you're comfortable with sharing, share. Esther, whatever you're not comfortable with, don't have to worry about it. But
Sure.
when it comes to your mental health, d- growing up or even now, do you struggle with whether it's depression, anxiety? Have you been severely burnt out because of music, or has music been a way for you to manage it or deal with it, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Yes, that makes sense. So for me, I guess when I first started noticing that I'm having some struggles with my mental health, it was before I came back to music, as a few years ago. And so about 6 years ago, uh, yeah, I went into depression. Although I didn't realize I was spiraling at that point. Um, I I believe I was in a place where I was losing my identity a bit, because, and I think it's years of culmination of my childhood experiences, trauma. Being an immigrant, I moved across the ocean to Canada by myself when I was 17 years old. So having
Oh, wow.
to really adapt that and really just, be on my own here for many years, right? Being an immigrant, and then motherhood came, then just parenting without a village. My whole family's still back in Malaysia. I'm really just here with my little family, and we're making things work. And so I think it was just a lot of this that just built up to a point where I took me a while to realize what was going on, but something happened in the home. And then I remember it, it was a very dark feeling, but at the same time it was, like just I was just ready to leave this world. And it took me a while to come back to it, but then I realized I needed professional help. So that was my first struggle at that point. That was 6 years ago. And I did. And for a very long time, I avoided, talk about therapy. Sometimes it's very hard to talk about these things and you don't know who to turn to. And even if you have family and friends that you can talk to, it's a very challenging thing to open up to somebody about it. And so finally I decided, okay, let's take this step and get some professional help. And I did therapy for 6 months. And it was through that therapy that I realized that I needed to do something for myself, because I haven't been. I've been just in survival mode for so many years. And out of that therapy sessions, I decided I was going to go back to school and study music, something that, was my safe haven when I was a child. Somewhere along the way, I just had forgotten about it, right? Life just got so busy, burnt out, struggling, new city, I was moving a lot too when I was young. So I never really had a chance to kind of understand and process all of these stresses in my life. And so when my kids were in school full time, I decided to go back and study music. And to me, music saved me because it gave me purpose again. It reminded me how much I loved it. And it reminded me so much about my youth that, I was passionate about the music that I love. And yeah, that for me was the start of really understanding how music can heal and remind myself that I'm okay.
Mm.
I have music. I'll be okay. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that, Esther, and being so thoughtful and candid about it. Seeking
Mhm.
help and opening up is tough. Uh, I've had my fair share of challenges with it. A lot better with opening up about it now than before. At the time, like I know you said you struggled with opening up to family and friends. And I guess being a musician and having mental health problems can be mutually exclusive and completely separate, because I know that a lot of musicians have underlying mental health struggles that's got nothing to do with their music, and then being a musician, a professional musician, can contribute to any struggles because it's not a stable life for the most part.
Yes.
Every now and like even if you get it to a point where it's sustainable, it's still really tough work, and there's always uncertainty, especially during COVID, which is, I think, when you went back to school, wasn't it? Where, you know, you'd think before COVID, we'll be fine. And, yeah, digital music, Spotify, streaming, all that stuff, we'll be fine. Music's okay, it'll be around. And then all of a sudden, gigs are taken away, live music
Yeah.
really just stops. And, you know, if you're a teacher, you have to go online and do it.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah. I was in that spot. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to like, did you find like, I know that sometimes you can be thrown into the deep end and make it work, but,
Yeah.
at the time, did you feel like, oh, for the first time, because of external events, this thing can be taken away from you, and all of a sudden your livelihood, the thing that you love the most
Mhm.
professionally and is a big part of your personality, has been taken away from you. Did that create some anxiety or uncertainty? Did you feel like maybe quitting, or thinking, "Oh, maybe music is not gonna work out"?
I did have that thought. I did think that if this was going to go ahead virtually, at the time I had just started teaching privately from my home, and my children were very young then as well. So I was trying to balance and juggle this active, teaching a couple kids every evening and then still having time for my family. So the screen, you know, going onto the screen, I think for me was challenging. I had a lot of anxiety because coming out of my therapy sessions, I was also coming out of it, and I was adjusting back to reality. And so being thrown into a world where I have to figure out technology and how to make it work, I think that was really the most uh, stressful part of it. It gave me some anxiety. Um, the good thing is I didn't have a big studio.
Mm.
I only had about 15 kids that I were teaching, and a lot of them are siblings. So then we
Oh,
sort of made it work with, yeah, one after the other kind of thing. So that was okay. But yeah, in terms of, coming out of COVID, I can understand there. I know a lot of musicians who depend on live gigs for, expression and income and everything. So that would have been a very, very hard challenge for them to go through that for the COVID pandemic year.
mm.
Yeah, ensembles who can't give concerts. I mean, there's always this a beautiful like sensation to be on stage and wanting to perform and share your music, right? And then if that's been taken away, that's, yeah, I can understand.
Yeah. Did being a solo musician at the time and even now, did you feel supported? Like, have you been able to, you know, go talk to your colleagues, fellow musicians, and open up and have mental health conversations, and not necessarily like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to tell you all about my depression and everything, but more so
Yeah.
like openly just say, hey, are you okay? And let's catch up for coffee and not talk
Yeah.
about music because that's one thing that like nowadays I'm okay with it in recent times because I stopped my music school a year and a half ago, and anytime I catch up with my music friends, I make
Mhm.
sure that I just want to catch up with you, and yeah, we'll talk about music, but I'm not going to be or I'm not gonna be gushing over music for 2 hours, like, it's a bit weird, but as much as I love music and it's been a big part of my life, I get sick and tired of talking about music every single day, and
Yeah.
so, like, yeah, for you, did you feel at the time when you were getting back into music school with what was going
Yeah.
on at home and even now,
Mhm.
do you feel like you can, call one of your music friends and just say, "Hey, let's catch up and let's just have a chat about life?"
Um, that's a good question. I have been thinking a lot about that, and I realize that it's still challenging for me to call up a friend and talk about, you know, music or not music, or even just struggles, right, that you're going through. Like there's always these self-doubts and, the imposter syndrome.
Hmm,
And it's I think for me it's hard because when I first started teaching, I didn't know a lot of musicians because I had just decided to do this for myself, right? Like I'm gonna go back and study. I'm gonna try teaching. I didn't have a lot of musician network to begin with, and I, like I'm not also like many others who study music in a college or school or whatever, and they have, how when you graduate together, you have your own network of
hmm,
musicians coming out to gig and everything in the city. And because I was always moving, I never really had time to assimilate into groups that are in the cities or that I was living in and make friends that way. So that's where I struggled mostly. I think also it affected my mental health a little bit. And by the time I realized that, yeah, I needed to talk to somebody or I needed professional help, I didn't know, how to express that or turn to somebody or call somebody up and talk about it. So in that sense, to answer your question, I did struggle with that for sure. And it wasn't until I actually went back to the local. So when I was living in Grand Prairie, so then I went back to the local college there to do a performance diploma because I wanted to. I wanted to experience being a music student. I wanted to do something for myself. And so it wasn't until then that I realized that there are these also resources that I can access. Like, for example, the college has a psychologist or therapist that is there for students to go to and talk about things that if you know, and it's it's there for you to access. You don't have to pay. And I met teachers that were very supportive if you need to talk about something. So that was really nice. And I thought that, wow, this is, I don't know if every college has that kind of environment, but at least for me, when I went back to school, I thought that this was great
Hmm.
and that I could, actually talk to somebody about my worries, my fears, even as an adult, I'm pretty old and I'm just starting to do all these music things that, maybe people in their 20s are also starting to do it. And so for me, I feel sometimes inferior to because of my age or, my energy. Um, Sometimes I feel like I'm lacking a little bit, right? But when I talk to the teachers about what I'm lacking, or maybe, things that I'm kind of not sure about, I'm not sure where to go, what to do next with my music, that really helps to have a teacher that can listen and not judge, but listen and give you other resources that you could look towards. And I think that's really important to have somebody who can actually guide you that way.
No, that's
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to find someone like that, Esther. And yeah, there are people like that who exist in the music world. I really love is that you talk about your children and you talk about how you decided to become a student again, and then you talk about your music, and it's interesting how when you have a network of musicians, and they're all supportive. And I guess my experience might be only in a vacuum, but I feel like when people say, "Oh, the music community is such a supportive world or supportive
Mm.
community," it's only if you want to really build your music career, or if you want to have a jam session with someone, that you can call up your bandmates or a couple of friends. And like, yeah, 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 come to this jam
Mhm.
session. Oh, I know this place you can gig at, or oh, you're missing your pedals, or oh, you need a guitar, you need a few strings. Yeah, yeah, don't worry about it. But the moment
Yeah,
you talk about anything other than music, especially when you start bringing up about your struggles, money, finances, life, that's when
yeah,
they're not as supportive, and it's not their fault.
yeah.
I struggled with this when I was in university where especially and not just with the young guys, I when I went into university for jazz, I was 23, so a little bit older than a lot of the young kids, and I guess 18, 19-year-olds, they're there because they love it, and, the exuberance of youth is they're
Yes.
kids, me at 23, I already felt like I was 62. Uh,
Oh,
but then I had teachers, I'd be talking to my lecturers and teachers who even they would say things like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Go to these jam sessions. Let's talk about music and listen to your favorite albums, and you'll be fine." And
mhm,
mm, I remember going up to so many teachers and asking, "Hey, I'm struggling at the moment, and I don't think it's because I'm struggling with the course. I'm just exhausted." And you know,
yeah.
and I'd say, "Did you ever go through this?" And they'd say, "You know what? I just practice a lot, and once I get my schedule up with my practice schedule and get the gigs up, it'll be fine." Like that's not what I was talking about. But there was one
Yeah.
teacher who, and I want to share this with you, and hopefully
Mhm.
this helps you as well. Where this one teacher, his name's James Greening. He's one of the best trumpet players in Sydney and Australia. To paint a picture, he's got red orange hair like Mufasa. His eyebrows are like he's got these Viking eyebrows. He's Aussie,
Yeah.
but he looks like a Viking. He has a fanny pack. He wears cargo short khakis.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Okay, I'm picturing it, yes.
and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he turned up to class one day with suspenders, a shirt, tied, like, so tight you'd be wondering, "Gee, any tighter, you'd be ripping it." He's a big boy, and
Okay.
I think he's early 60s now,
Oh, wow.
and he was the first musician I'd ever met who would openly talk about their mental health struggles. He'd rock up to class and he'd go, "Hey kids, oh man, I'm so glad to see all of you because I had a panic attack at 4 a.m. this morning, but I realized I had to tell myself I'm going to see you kids and we're going to have a good time. We're going to laugh. We're going to tell stories. And oh, yeah, and we're going to jam on things." And um, I was only in university for 1 year um, before I had enough of it. But I
Yeah.
remember his classes. I think we played a lot of music, but half the time it'd just be talking about stories, talking about life and what we like to eat and traveling. And it just made me realize that behind the musicians, there's an actual person there who lives, who
Mhm.
has another life. Whereas, and I'm sure the other teachers and students also do this, but they would be walking music encyclopedias.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let their guard down. But
Mhm.
James, I remember when the second lockdown came in 2021 in Sydney. This was around June. I pulled him aside and said, "Hey James, I know you have talked about your anxiety and literally just shouted it out in class. Do you mind if I have a chat with you? I'm struggling a bit." And he said, "Yeah, yeah, don't worry. Let's catch up tomorrow morning." Anyways, the next morning, the lockdown hits, so he said, "Just give me a phone call." So I gave him a phone call, and he told me something that at the time I didn't really understand fully, but now I do. He said, "Look,
Mhm.
the first lockdown that happened in 2020 March till May or June, he put his trumpet down and he reminded himself that he's a father, he's a granddad, and he loves gardening. He loves to walk his dog, and he loves to watch old classic Western movies." Because to this day, even though everyone knows that this guy is one of the coolest trumpeters and coolest jazz cats in Australia, he still feels inferior to all his colleagues. He'd say,
Really?
"Yeah,
Wow.
yeah." He told me that, I tell you what, I wouldn't have a job, Brian, if I didn't know all these guys because all these guys are my mates, they're my friends, and if I weren't
Mhm.
friends with them, I wouldn't have a job here because they are so much better, they have so much more knowledge, but
Mhm.
I guess what makes me maybe the reason why I'm still successful somewhat is because when I go up on stage, I'm not just a musician, I'm just there, I'm James, and I'm here to give a good time, and I want people to see that I'm James. I'm not a trumpet player. I'm not a jazz musician. I'm
Right.
I'm just another person, and I'll talk about my kids. I'll talk about my grandkids. I'll talk about my garden. Um, so you telling me all those things about your life aside from music, I'm sure you know it now, but hopefully you continue to remind yourself that you're a mum. You love dancing.
I love gardening.
You love gardening.
Yeah,
Maybe you
I
love
love
your
gardening.
movies as well. You love just
Yeah.
listening to music as well, not
Yes.
just playing it. You love
Yeah.
you love nature. I know you on your Instagram reels, you talk about nature a lot. So,
Mhm.
and that's something that in the last year and a half, I've barely touched my guitars up there, and I haven't taught a lesson in over 6 months now. And I don't really miss playing music. I got my first gig next week for the first time in nearly 2 years, and I'm looking forward to that, but it's funny how, like, growing up, I liked practicing, and I guess because I didn't do the exams, but I never liked performing,
Oh, okay.
especially in front of my peers at school or university because I'd always feel like I'm just performing for my classmates, and they're all musicians as well. anytime I played away from, like, if it was at a wedding or, at an open mic at a pub, that's when I'd have the most fun, and
Mhm.
I'd use that to practice for my, exam performances in school as well. So,
Oh, wow.
whereas
Yeah.
others would be locked up in their room, without food and just maybe just rice or something. Uh,
What do you think is it about that difference in environment that you're performing that helps you? I mean, performance anxiety is something that I've just recently
oh,
been
yeah.
also learning to deal with.
Mm.
Uh, and I never used to have struggles with my fingers going numb or tingling when I'm
Oh,
playing. And then something happened earlier this year and it happened and it was scary, right, for me. And then and after that performance, I just went into this spiral again. I tend to go into these little spirals. Um, and I just felt like, well, maybe I shouldn't be performing anymore. I don't want to perform anymore again. But then, yeah, it takes a while to get out of that mindset, right? But yeah, like I'm just curious, to hear your experience with that.
yeah, well, I had something similar to you, Esther. This was just before the second lockdown in Sydney, 2021, and
Mhm.
before I called James, I rocked up to an exam, and it was a very standard exam. Just got to play your major scales, diminished scales. It was a very, very straightforward music vocab lesson, really, exam, not lesson. Uh,
Mhm.
but I remember the day that leading up to it, I'd slept only 2 or 3 hours, and I was trying to just hold my breath and just control my breathing on the train ride there and trying not to cry as well because I was just so exhausted from everything, and I
Mhm.
was I mean, looking back, I could see it coming. Like, I was thinking, "Something's not gonna work, today," and it was,
Mhm.
let's just get to the hall, and let's just get this over and done with." So I rock up, and I think I'm one of the last students to do the exam. So my teacher and the director of jazz, they're tired as well. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why
Yeah,
we had the exam at
that's
seven
early.
o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I have my coffee, so I drink my coffee, and he says, "All right, Brian, all right, start with the major scale." And in my mind, I'm thinking, I've done this 1,000, a million times. All right, cool. And first thing I do is drop my pick. I go, well, that's not a good start. I also forget to plug in, um, and then I fluff the first note. I could see that they both exhale. I'm like, okay, come on, Brian. And my jazz teacher, my guitar teacher, like, come on, Brian, we did this last week, and I just
Right.
couldn't move. Yeah, like you, I just couldn't move, and I think
Mhm.
after 3 or 4 attempts, they both could see something wasn't right as well. So they said, look, go home, Brian, get some rest, come back tomorrow. Thankfully,
Okay.
tomorrow was lockdown, so tomorrow didn't happen. I did the exam 3 months later, but I remember going home thinking, "Yeah, that's the first time that I've really just frozen in any performance." And, um, I think after that, I had to remind myself that I'd like to treat every performance or exam like I'm just rocking up and having a bit of fun. I know it sounds simple as
Mhm.
easier said than done, but how I dealt with performance anxiety, especially during high school, before high school, at the end of high school, I think I mentioned earlier, I hated performing. I
Mhm.
loved practicing, but I hated performing. I think it was like sport as well. I loved training, but I hated match day because I'd just be so tight
Uh,
and I'd be like, "Oh,"
right.
I'd put so much pressure on myself. I think a lot of musicians do. You got
Yeah.
perfect, all those, things like that. Um, so going to these open mics and pubs to me is a far more hostile environment than performing in a school hall in front of your teachers and your teachers and your peers. So I remember first times I did open mics, I was 16, and I'm in front of all these patrons who are 6 or 7 cans in, And the only
Mhm.
way to turn them is to play music they know and to really just leave it out on the stage. So that's what I did.
Right.
In between songs, the first few times I did it, I'd treat it like I'd just turn up, "Hi, I'm Brian, I'm gonna play this," play a song, and no reaction, just like, "Yeah, yeah, alright, get off the stage, thank you."
Mhm.
After that, I went, I gotta try to find a way to turn these people and get them on my side." So I'd start telling stories and start talking before and after, and I didn't mind the old deprecation,
Right.
trying to have some banter with them. So I'd rock 'em and go, "Hi, my name's Brian. My friends call me Susan sometimes, and, this guitar bag I hear, there's no guitar in here. This is just where I keep my grass clippings. This is actually, my 3rd hobby. What I enjoy doing is, eyebrows. I love, shaping my eyebrows." So, most of the time, I'd just say rubbish like that, got nothing to do with the music, and then I'd go,
Right.
"Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm gonna play this song." Um,
Okay.
so towards the back end of high school and before that, ill-fated exam where I froze,
Yeah.
what I realized a lot of people did especially at school, was they would when you get up on stage, you sit at the chair. So, okay, teacher goes, "And now we have a performance from Brian." Clap, clap. Everyone claps in the hall, and you sit on the chair. And he goes, "Before Brian plays, I would like to make a few announcements." And teachers just, "Okay, here's the next 16 announcements. We got year 6 camp here. We're also going to have a fundraiser here. Blah, 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 blah." And
Right.
you're sitting there like, "Can you
You're
shut
just
up?
like waiting, yeah.
I'm already shitting myself and I'm sweating." Uh, so and then no wonder I fluffed the first note. So after going to all these pubs and open mics, I'd sit at the front row and wait for the teacher to finish their yabbing.
Yeah.
And everyone would be wondering, like, "Why isn't Brian on the chair?" It's like, well, because they're still talking and giving all these announcements. So once they're done, that's when I'd walk on stage, plug in, give a thumbs up to the sound guy, and just start playing. And that seemed to help with any nervous energy I had would be going into the
Mm.
performance. Or
Yeah.
it'd work this way where as the teacher was yapping, I'd start falling asleep
Mm.
because I'd be bored, all that nervous energy would lead up to the announcements, and then as
Yeah.
the announcements are going, I'd start falling asleep. So that was my way of calming myself down, and by the time I'd get up on stage, I'd be loose and calm. So I know everyone's a bit different, but for
Yeah.
my students, I'd ask them, "Do you wanna be pumped up and, like, really excited, or do you wanna be calm and relaxed?" And, maybe 7 or 8 times out of 10, a lot of my students would, fare better if they were calm and loose, almost to the point
Mhm.
they'd be falling asleep, you know? I tell them, "Look,
Yeah.
if you've practiced all week, if you know this song, all your practice is done. Your skills, they're not gonna go away. They're not gonna suddenly not work." Well,
Mhm.
it suddenly didn't work for me, but that's because, I put my body under stress. Like,
Right.
if you've practiced, you know what you're doing, you've listened to the song, you'll be
Yeah.
alright. If you haven't practiced and you haven't put in the time, well, don't expect to give a good performance.
Yeah.
But if you are relaxed and calm, you still might be able to get through it. If you try to pump yourself out a bit too much, like the NBA players, yeah, then that's where you're too amped up. You might be a little bit too amped up. So
Yeah.
I know performance anxiety and those the stress that comes on stage. It's a problem, and it's something that not a lot of teachers will help. Like, not a lot of teachers don't
Yeah.
really know how to manage that with their students. Like, they'll just say, "You just gotta practice and know the song."
Yeah, I've had teachers tell me that too, and then thanks so much for sharing that. That's been very insightful. And yeah, teachers would tell me that you just got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
You just got to keep going on stage, and the more you do it, and you even hear it from very experienced, you know, people who do live gigs for a living.
Mm.
And there is some truth to it, right? I guess because you're always putting yourself out there on stage, and you don't know your audience a lot of the time. So it's a different audience. But yeah, that's always what it is. You just keep doing it and then you'll get better at it. But I don't know. I struggle with that. How you would teach that to somebody who's still learning, right? Like for me, I so I'll share with you another point in my life where I struggled, my mental health suffered. So when I went back to college to study music, and I was really excited, I was really happy to be a little music student in this, very, very nice, sweet local college. And we were just coming out of COVID. So then the cohort, there was only like 5 of us.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
It is,
understandable.
yeah. So,
Very
and I think
interesting.
the college already had issues with enrollment, over the years. I think it was just the numbers were just low, dwindling or whatever trends that they were seeing. So I was just still finishing my first year, and then in the middle of the program, they decided to cut the whole music program in the school. And so I was left hanging. I wasn't able. I was just like, what? I did all of this, and now this roadblock comes by, and like, what am I gonna do now? So I went back down the spiral. It was dark. I was just like, man, I did all of this to get out of the hole, and I'm faced with this. Like, I was really going through a tough time. But then, thankfully, with the help of my really, really good teachers, even though they were lost their jobs, they helped me figure out an alternative program to complete my last year of the diploma. And they helped me fight for my rights with the college to complete.
Hmm.
But I had to do everything on my own. I had to go find another piano teacher who was willing to teach me. I had to go find an ensemble to complete my masterclass hours. I had to find a choir to work with so that I can complete my other ensemble hours. Like, I had to find all these things to fit into what I would have needed to complete
Hmm.
if it was a regular, you know, last year of the diploma program. So with that, I think while it was great, it came with a lot of challenges because then now I'm not under an umbrella, right? Like, I'm working with so many different people, plus online courses and stuff like that. But what really I struggled with was when I had to work. So I was working with 2 ensembles, and the one ensemble that I was working with, uh, it was a toxic learning environment. I was struggling. I had so much music to learn, and they had concerts to put out. That's the thing. These are
Hmm.
community ensembles, right? So it's not just a school. Like, they actually had concerts that they needed to put out. So I was burnt out. And the fact that nobody was listening, like, even I was trying to voice out my concern that, I can't learn this much rep. And I've been struggling because those rep that they're learning is advanced level rep. And for me, coming in as like a music student, trying to make this work so that I can get my certificate, my diploma, uh, I just felt like, I wasn't being supported and they weren't listening. And so I started to avoid practice. I started to cry before each rehearsal. I was getting so nervous going into rehearsals to the point where my teacher noticed that, you know, yeah, we need to do something about this, right? And so then she suggested that, go talk to the director and say you can only do half of the rep. And that's it. Just put down your foot, say you're doing these half, and they have to find somebody else to fill your shoes. And so I did that, but I think it came with a cost because then they brought in another person. And then immediately the environment changed in the rehearsal because they knew this other musician coming in. And this musician is great at what he does. And so there was a little bit of a struggle in terms of like, how the performance is going to be. But eventually, after we figured it out, on the night where we had to put out the concert on stage, I just felt like people were, and that musician, they were expecting me to be pumped up. Like you said, pumped up for the performance, right? Like, this is jazz, You got to be, I don't know, whatever jazz musicians always do and put out a thing. But the fact that nobody was listening to me and how I am as a musician, that's not how I prepare for a performance. I need to be calm. I need to be relaxed. I'm doing this for the first time ever in my life. Like, I've never done, something like that before. I've never played in an ensemble like that before. And to them, their experience, they probably done it 1,000 times. I don't know. So it was tough. That was when, I was really struggling, and it threw my confidence out. The concert went well, of course, but everything else leading up to it, the rehearsals, I was even sleeping so much that I couldn't even afford to practice just because I was so burnt out. And, tears and worries before each rehearsal, that took a toll on my mental health. And then I decided not to continue after. I was supposed to continue for the whole year because they had one session in the fall and then another in the winter. And I'm like, you know what? I've actually done my hours, so this is not for me. So it was hard because at that time I didn't know what to do. So then fortunately I had the teachers to help me, guide me through what to do. And I made a decision, and I had to be confident about making the decision to stop going into a toxic environment to learn, to perform. Yeah, sometimes it was a really good experience, a good learning experience for me. But at times, if you feel like it's not the right situation or environment for you, sometimes you have to walk away from it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And you making that decision, I'm sure your teacher's told you this and you know this yourself, but to step away from
Yes.
from any toxic work environment, whether it's music or any other job, it takes a lot more effort and courage to do that than to stay in it because you know one if you know that if you stay in it, then the professional opportunities potentially will keep coming, but stepping away creates this
Yes.
level of uncertainty. But at some point you got to put your health above everything else, and to me that's what you did. And music is something that I'm sure you'll be doing for the rest of your life until your fingers stop working, or maybe if your fingers stop working, you'll play with your feet or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to be
And like you said, the fun aspect of it, like it definitely took the fun out for
yeah.
me, and that's when I think, it really affects the mental health of a musician when you take the fun out of the music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to have that balance of, as I mentioned at the start when we started this conversation, there's a level of hard work, dedication that you got to put
Yeah.
in that's not fun, but the performances, maybe it's just the result of all that hard work. And if the result is a means to an end, then it undermines everything that you've put into it, like if,
Yeah.
sometimes I think if you're doing a lot of performances, if you're a live musician, then you're gonna do thousands of performances. One of my music teachers in high school who was supportive, I guess, like your teacher, she told me that, and it's funny how she's Malaysian Chinese,
Oh.
short auntie, very 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 strict with practice, knows barely any pop music other than from the 60s and 70s.
Mhm.
But she would tell me that just because you did one bad performance doesn't mean you're a bad musician, and just because you give 3 great performances doesn't make you a great musician. You gotta judge yourself over a long period of time, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
that's good advice.
and if you have people who are able to help you and see beyond that, leading up to your performances or whatever, that something is not right, then it makes it it makes when you get back and perform maybe more worth it, or you are able to stay calm and able to stay relaxed and enjoy the moment a bit more.
Mm.
One thing that I haven't performed in a long time, but I struggle with uh, teaching as well. Where when I first started teaching, especially when I opened my school in 2022, I wanted every single lesson to be brilliant. I had this. I would tell myself, I had this saying where, like, every single lesson, I want my students to come out with learning something awesome and skill, or something that helps with their technique or listening, and they can practice it and they get better next week. And I guess on the surface that's fine, but that pressure I put on myself led to me putting that pressure on my students, and if they made one mistake, or if they, had a tough week at school and didn't practice, I'd be going off at them, and they're already struggling with their parents putting expectations on them, so that wouldn't help.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Um,
tough.
and then eventually it took for me to have, breakdowns to me, for me to realize I can't put this pressure on my students anymore. You turn up to the lesson, you're going to have 40 lessons with me this year. So I'm going to see you next week. Your parents have paid for it. Like,
Yeah,
let's, half the time we try to do something serious and let's focus. And then the other half, let's learn your demon hunters or whatever, your BTS.
yeah,
So no, like you walking away from it, um, that especially it's hard because I know in music schools, the music world, that there seems to be more toxic environments than supportive. And you hear a lot more musicians call them out
yeah,
now than before, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's not a good thing,
yeah,
because it kind of isolates all these musicians, and we're kind of in this middle age where you still get a lot of old school musicians from a previous generation that kind
yeah,
of just got on with it. Whereas now there's a generation of musicians who say, well, I don't think we can tolerate that, because even in a
yeah,
normal workplace, if someone is throwing you projects after projects, making you work after hours,
yeah,
work on the weekends, taking time away from your family, that's unacceptable in most modern day workplaces. In the
yeah,
music world, it's like, and you're not even getting paid to practice, as a musician. Like, you're getting paid for the performance. Um,
yeah. I mean, yeah, and even back to that, thing that you were saying about, how when we're learning music, yeah, so that's just the fun aspect of it, right? But we also have to work hard. And, but sometimes in these learning environments, even for me, sometimes I can't tell what's right and what's wrong, and how much effort is too much, or how much no effort is, okay. But because I think if you care about what you do, and you there's a certain amount of, as a musician, as an artist, you care about the work you do, because it's an extension of yourself, right? Whether you're writing music or if you're performing music. And if there's been a lot of, awareness about these learning environments that are not so ideal in music schools and everything. And sometimes I find that when I'm in a position, especially back then when I was faced with that situation, I couldn't even tell if I was doing the right thing. And because people will tell you, like, you just gotta stick with it. That's how it is. But is it really?
yeah,
Is it supposed to be that way? I wouldn't know until I get to a point where my mental health is struggling. Like, I can't practice. I can't focus. I can't concentrate. I am almost in tears, dreading going to rehearsals. Like, yeah. But then people are saying that, well, it's just work. Just treat it like work. So I I don't want to say that I was actually, you know what, to this day, I don't even know if I was gaslighted or something, but there were times where I'm just like, was that real? You know, when I went up and said that, hey, you know, I'm struggling with this, can you please slow down? I need it to be slower. Or I need to cut back the rep on everything. And then they will just brush me off and say, oh, you just do whatever you want with it. But I don't know how to just do whatever I want with it. You know what I mean? I'm still learning. Like I just was not being given direction, and I'm trying to imagine how many other young musicians are faced with this kind of situation. It does affect your mental health for sure, and sometimes it's sad to know that you only realize it when it's right when you're right at the tip, you're ready to break, right? Or you've already broken and you don't realize that's the cause of it. It's
Mm.
quite sad. But hopefully we need a little bit more awareness about all this, and that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, people are more aware about it. Yeah.
Yeah, the more conversations we have about it, then it gets
Yeah.
closer to not necessarily finding solutions, but ways to manage it. And we can't control how the industry as a whole is. There's and the music world, the music industry is made up of so many different aspects. So, you can't one change is not gonna like, if we change something with music education, for example, it's
Mhm.
great that at least I've seen in Australia and also I'm sure North America, music colleges, universities have a psychologist or therapist or counselor on site, and, of course, we'd love more, but having
Yeah.
1 or 2, that's great, and, there are also musicians, teachers who are from a generation, maybe 90s or 2000s who understand that, you know, putting your health above a performance, putting music, a performance practice above your health is just not like if there's one black and white thing with being an artist or musician creator is that
Mhm.
if it comes at the cost of your health, then you got to stop. And that doesn't mean you quit and you never do it again. It just means that you got to give yourself a rest, and that rest might
Yeah.
be 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 year, 2 years. It doesn't matter how long it takes. Music, if you've been doing it for such a long time, it's going to stay with you. And when
That's
you
right.
recover, when you are healthy, you're a better chance of coming back and enjoying it a bit more. And maybe you don't practice as much because if you've been playing since you were 4 years old, then the skills are there. That you might be rusty, but the skills are going to be there. Like,
Mhm.
unless if you break a hand, like they're not.
Yeah, that's true. Like I took such a big break, when I was 17, life took a different path for me, and I didn't do music for so long, like more than 20 years before coming back into it again, right? So you're right. It's there. So
Yeah, and I hope anyone listening to all the millions of people listening, of course, because this is how big the podcast will be. I'd like to thank my parents for constantly refreshing to get those streams up. Um, but
oh,
you know,
yeah.
anyone listening, musicians, artists, creators, or even if you're just listening for fun, um, you know, don't let your career, your pursuit for music, as much as you love it and as much as it's part of you, get in the way of you taking care of yourself. And
Mhm.
if you have people that you can talk to, as tough as it will be, make sure that start a conversation with them. Just say, hey, can I have a conversation with you? If you feel like you have a role model with someone, you have someone in your life, whether they're in music or away from music. Of course, it'd be great if you knew someone in music who has been through the mill and found a way to get through,
Yes.
like your teacher, like my teacher, James Greening. Honestly, I'm sure if you actually talk to anyone who has been, let's say you're in school, you're a 16-year-old, and you're in this environment where everyone just seems to be living, breathing, sleeping music, I'm sure if you actually pull one aside, one of your teachers aside, say, "Hey, can I talk to you?" and just kind of break down that barrier, I
Yeah,
reckon once that bubble breaks up, they'll tell you, "Hey, I'm struggling and it's been tough, financially, it's not going well, but,
for
I wanna
sure.
take care of my family, I wanna take care of my health," and, having those conversations, even though it feels like it's got nothing to do with music, I is so important, and
Yes.
behind the music is a person, you're a mum, you're a writer, you love nature. I love sport, and I'm a partner to my girlfriend, and
Mhm.
these days I'm playing a bit more tennis and basketball, which funnily enough is helping me if I ever get back to performing a lot more. I feel like being on the tennis court, for example, it's very much like being a musician, where obviously I'm going to turn pro and be like Roger Federer. Actually, yeah,
Thank you.
I tell my girlfriend that like
One day.
I tell my girlfriend that like if I want to, like she says, I want like if you ever want to get back and be a performer. Once we are fine, like if you have some savings, then that's cool. I'll support you. But then I said to her, if I ever want to turn pro as a tennis player, that's your cue to leave because, yeah, being a tennis player is the worst financial decision you'll ever make. Uh, but
She's smart.
but yeah, like the whole point is like if you are healthy, then your music will be healthy. And
Yeah.
as tough as things are still today, it gives you a better chance to handle those things and hopefully not quit and hopefully not have those moments where you are crying before a rehearsal, I guess, like, being stressed and anxious before performance, that's understandable, but, it's heartbreaking to hear before a practice session or a rehearsal because that's something where you should be allowed to make mistakes. You should be allowed to you know, fail a bit more. And you should be allowed to have open conversations and say, I'm not doing okay in those situations, In a
Yeah.
performance where people are paying money, paying a ticket, okay, that's where like, yeah, you try to do your best. If you
Yeah.
muck that up, you got another performance coming up. Um, if whoever is the organizer, the boss, your manager says, no, you're not doing this anymore, it's probably better, because that person is a bit of a dick. Or maybe too toxic, so maybe a gaslighter or I wonder how many
Yeah.
people use gas stoves these days. Maybe it's electric stoves.
Electric, yeah,
Yeah,
these
so they're
days.
not gaslighting you, they're electrifying you.
That's a good way to put it. But yeah, no, it's all very good learning, and I think it's just, yeah, like you said, very important to talk about it. Yeah. I wish I had opened up a little bit sooner. That way I wouldn't have I think it took about, yeah, 6 rehearsals and halfway in. So, I understand that it was hard for them to find a last minute person too,
Uh,
to fill in, but it was necessary for my mental health, and I might have not showed up for the concert, right? Yeah, so that was a good decision, good learning. Hopefully, it doesn't happen again. But
No, to me, you did your best and you put in on your all and you made a decision that
yeah,
you said that you got back into music for yourself. Um,
yeah,
Now you've stepped away from that place for you as well. Like it may not be for your music, but it's for you. So I hope you know
yeah.
that, Esther. And we've been talking for nearly 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
I really appreciate you being so honest and candid. You telling me about your experiences has helped me now, and as you've been talking, I've been writing some things that you've said just to so I can
Oh,
hold them to my keep them. And the next people I talk to, I might share some of your stories and advice and helpful lessons like that. So, um, to
thank you.
to
Yeah.
finish off, the I want to ask first. I did this with some new guests when I started this podcast, where I give rapid fire questions. Some of them have got to do with music, some of them have got nothing to do with music. Totally
Okay.
unprepared. But this one, before the rapid fire questions, this one I'll ask, and I I'd like to ask is, so how are you doing now? Like, do you feel like you're in a better place? Are you still struggling, or do you feel like you're better equipped to handle your mental health struggles with your music as well?
Yeah, great question. I do feel I am better, definitely in a better place than I was 5 to 6 years ago with what I was struggling with. And yeah, because of what I've learned, I believe that I'm in a better place to manage all of that now. I'm still learning as I go. Like I said, I just moved to a new city, so I'm sure there's new challenges, new crazy stuff, new weird gigs or whatever that's going to come up that was throw my game off. And but it's all part of the experience, and I'm just so grateful to have music
Mm.
in my life. Who knows how long more I can still play the piano, but for as long as I can do it, I'll still try my best and keep playing, keep writing, yeah, and just enjoying it. And I think I'm in a place where I'm learning to enjoy my music more. For a while there, I was always questioning. You always have those self doubts about yourself, your skills, your performance. But I think I'm slowly getting to a point where I'm like, I'm okay. That was pretty good. I did well. Like giving myself a pat on the back, which is very important for all musicians. Give yourself a pat on the back for trying. Because if you think about it, most people wouldn't even try,
Yeah.
probably, to come to onto a stage or learn a new piece of music. Or so, yeah, I think I'm in a better place now than I was 6 years ago.
I'm so glad to hear that, and keep patting yourself on the back. If I could, I'll pat you on the back. I'd love to get
We'll
back
pat each
to
other's back.
I'd love to get back to Canada at some stage, whenever it's a
Yeah.
little bit cheaper. It is
Yeah.
expensive and it's a long flight from here, but I remember being in Vancouver, and this is 2017. Music was a big part there. I don't know what it's like now, but it's a small, even though the population is bigger than Australia. Was it 40
Yeah.
million in Canada now these days? Something like that.
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah.
like it was like a smaller town almost, like everyone kind of knew each other.
Oh,
And it just
yeah. It's big now. It depends. Yeah, like, especially Vancouver, the big cities.
mm.
Come to Calgary. We're so close to the
Yeah,
mountains.
I have so many
Yeah.
I have a couple of, guitar friends there, and,
Yeah.
they've had similar experiences with you, and, maybe we can all get together at some stage so we can go close to Niagara Falls maybe or something like that as well.
Yeah.
Maybe you can do a
We'll
wedding
do
day.
some we'll do some social media content or whatever. It seems like I'm always struggling to find content to put out. It's just another part of the whole, yeah, anxiety thing. But I've been better at it for just posting it out there and not worrying about whatever, right? You're just putting some content out there so people know what you have to offer.
Mm.
Yeah.
If you can, Esther, I'd love to get you back on the show at some stage, and we'll talk about all that stuff,
Sure.
social media side, the money. Let's talk about money, of course. Musicians don't
Of
talk about
course.
money. Oh dear.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
yes, we don't talk about that in the music world. So,
Mhm.
we'll talk about money, and maybe some people cringe at that. Let's get on with all right. So rapid fire. I don't know how many I get through this. I got a couple. So,
Okay.
um,
I'm ready.
everything that you say now will be the truth and only the truth. And
Oh gosh.
these are your final definitive answers that you cannot go back on.
Oh my.
Um,
Okay, let's do
Very
this.
me. So first one is, what's the best gig you've ever done? Where you just felt like it was the most amazing time.
That mountain gig that I
Ah,
did by the Bow River, that was the best
no.
ever.
What about a country where you'd love to go and just play, whether it's busking or a specific location, in nature, somewhere in the world, anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world? Hmm. I don't know, it'd be really cool to go to the Great Wall of China and play there.
Oh, that no,
Because
nice.
I've never been. I've never been to the Great Wall of China, but it'd be pretty cool to kinda drag my piano up there and, I don't know, play something there.
Mm,
That would be cool.
okay. No, that'd be nice. Would you walk up and you'd got to push Yeah, maybe I
I
can
don't know how I would.
maybe I can make sure the wheels are unlocked, and I'll roll your upright piano up
Yeah,
as you.
might need some help there. Yeah.
Or we get a truck, and you're sitting on the
Yeah.
truck, and you're playing as a
You
driver
know,
up or
and that's
something.
one thing I'm always so jealous of you guitar players. It's so you guys have so like little gear to carry around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
But
You just have the guitar. I mean, it's weird because it should be very accessible to everyone, but then you have electric guitar players, especially who carry 16 amps and 16 pedals,
oh
and
yeah.
um,
But
you
I
know,
mean acoustic, like that's
yeah, just
great
get two of
for
these,
me.
even the ukulele there. Yeah, why not?
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah.
What's the worst gig you've done where you just felt like I don't want to do this ever again? I don't want to come back to this place, and this client is a bit of a weirdo.
Hmm.
And whoever
I
you
would
call
say
out, I'll you can say,
I would say that that ensemble gig that I had to do. Yeah.
who are those
That was
people? Name and shame.
that was not a
Don't do that.
oh, no names.
No
It's
names.
dangerous to name names, but uh
I'll give them a
yeah,
call.
it was definitely, yeah, it was quite an experience and I don't want to ever go through that again. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
after this, when we're done, give me their phone numbers, their Instagrams, and I'll give them a message. I'll let them know what they did.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good.
No, I only joke, half joke. If there was an album, a song that you could only listen to for the rest of your life, you could put it on repeat. Now, this is always very hard to narrow down. It's like, what's your favorite movie? But
Mhm.
what's an album or one song where if that was the last one, the only one, your Spotify broke down and it was that track, or you only had one CD record of that left? What's
Mhm.
that one?
Probably my NSYNC album from the 90s.
Nice.
I love NSYNC. Yeah, I would play those songs. Bye bye bye. Um, can't remember the other one but yeah, basically the song that was the first album that I really really enjoyed. I mean, I've listened to Backstreet Boys, those boy
Backstreet
bands
Boys.
back in the 90s, but NSYNC was the one for me. Yeah,
Mm,
I'll put that on
nice.
repeat. I still do sometimes on the radio if I hear a song
No, that's
that's up
great
there.
stuff, you know?
Yeah, sometimes they do play it. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
I tell some of my young I used to tell some of my youngest students, like, if you like BTS, if you like Blackpink, then you're gonna love these old, boy bands and girl bands back in the day, you know?
Yeah,
It
they're
started
quite
with
similar.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the Spice Girls as well, you know?
There you go. Are you a Spice Girls fan? Are you?
I remember
My husband is.
I love this, like, the one that just gets stuck in my head, it's like, "Tell you what I want, really,
Yeah,
really
that
want."
song is yes, that's a good one.
Yeah, if I'm listening to a lot of Blackpink and I think, "Gee, that's a terrible song," then I remind myself, well, but Spice Girls, a lot of their song, there wasn't anything, it's nothing sophisticated about, but gee, it's fun to listen to. So, it's just, it's an earworm, it gets stuck in your head and it annoys the heck out of you, but you can dance to it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's the
Um,
fun.
ah, dear. So, this will be so we'll end with a negative and then a positive. So,
Okay.
what's one big pet peeve you have in music education, performing? What's one big pet peeve that just grinds your gears?
Laughing at someone's opinion.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has an opinion about the music, right? But I think really calling them out and laughing about it, I think that's a really big pet peeve of mine.
Ah.
Yeah, like, it's not necessary. Keep your thoughts to yourself.
Yeah, do it quietly, you know? After we finish this call, I'm gonna laugh, on my own about.
Yeah.
I've actually written on my notes, like, "Gee whiz, Esther's weird." My god, she likes to sing? Dearie me.
There you go. You can laugh all about it after the
Yeah,
call, but yeah.
even though I've been listening to them all year.
Well, I'm glad to hear
Yeah.
that.
Was it, yeah, Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, I mean, getting back into a lot of that. I think it was I can't remember exactly what kids or animated film, but one of my students last year just loved Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. It's I gotta remember a movie. Like a lot of kids, I find a lot of my younger students these days, like they go back and listen to all these old school '90s and 2000s songs, and some movies now they don't have original music, but they get back and
Yeah.
it might have been Sing, with all those animals, Sing and Sing 2. Do you know that movie?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe it was
Yeah,
that, and a lot of my students, they love Elton John because of it. They didn't know it was Elton John, but they love Rocket Man, they love, uh, your not Tiny Dancer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Some of these, yeah. But see, that's how they experience it, right? Through a movie. It's just like me when I was experiencing, classical music from Tom and Jerry. So I think that's how it's like too for children these days.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, so last question, kind of my spin on the whole, when people say, "What's one thing you would tell your younger self?" To me, that's rubbish because your younger self is dead. Uh, that
Really?
got that got grim very quickly.
Yeah.
It's always that. I'm glad you laughed at that. Whether you're laughing at me or with me, it doesn't matter. You laughed. Uh,
Well, it's not music related.
if there's one thing you would say to your future self, so let's say in 20 years, and
Mhm.
after you're back to performing, maybe you're teaching again, you've done a lot of workshops and choirs, and you're going to be doing this for another 20 years. So in 20 to 25 years, what would you tell them? After struggling a bit, having a few successes.
I would tell them, "S- listen to yourself, your heart, in everything that you do.
Mm.
Yeah. No matter what anybody else thinks that it's better or whatever, just do what you want to do. I think that's what I would tell.
I think I might tell
Mhm.
myself that as well. Yeah, I think I told myself that 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when I was going through my darkest period. I wrote down in my journal
Mhm.
something like, "If you can get through this for the next few years, then just tell yourself you got through this." So
Yeah.
now I'm 28, and for the last 5 years, I've been going through some shit. So nowadays, I don't remind myself as much as I probably should or could, but I say I got through the last 5 years, and I try to write in my journal, say for the next 10 years, you're going to go through a lot of stuff, but if you can get through it, then it's good. You put in a good effort,
Yeah.
you struggled, you had some hard times, but you got through it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And you'll be okay. And you are okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We're lucky that in an era that, even though it's very early on now, mental health awareness has been around for me 20, 25 years, but it's really only been maybe since COVID 5 years ago that open
Mhm.
conversations, are being had more regularly, and I believe that that's when changes, adjustments, programs, that's where they come from, conversations, because awareness it's like it can only get you so far, and unfortunately, I don't have the solutions to everything. I don't have the means to
Yeah.
implement any resources, but hopefully having conversations like this, at least from the grassroots, the ground level, helps people understand that, hey, it's okay to not be okay. In the music world,
Mhm.
more people are struggling than not struggling. And if you can give them a chance to share that, then it gives them little bit of belief and hope that they can get through it. Or if they can't get through it, they can find help. So, yeah,
Exactly.
hopefully, if
Yeah.
we have this conversation in maybe 6 months' time, then I'm sure there'll be more movements. And if we have this conversation in 6, 7, 8 years, and if your children decide to have music and they love music and they decide to be a professional musician, first remind them how financially unviable it is and tell them to
Yes.
not do it. Uh, that's what happens when I go to ChatGPT and all the AI prompts I ask it.
Does it say that?
Sometimes
Really?
I'll say, like, "Is being a professional musician in 2026 a good choice?" And it will lay out all the reasons not to. all the
Oh,
financial
really?
struggles,
Mm,
and then says,
yeah.
"Yeah, you probably shouldn't do it because you're not good enough." No,
Wow. I will go try that.
it's very blunt. But then if you ask it, what are the resources? It will list, and if you prompt it well,
Right.
it will list out all the resources available in your country or around the world. And for all the, maybe we can have another conversation about AI taking over real musicians.
Yeah.
The one thing that
That's
AI
a
is
big
good
one.
for is getting access to resources, at least online. So
Yeah.
that's a sneak preview for the next episode.
Yeah. Well, and even songwriting, right? Like, write me a lyrics to this song. It's just like
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
It's a
My
it
daughter just told me that there was a writing competition that just got canceled. It was supposed to be held this July. She was going to submit a story and it got canceled.
ooh,
The reason being because of AI.
ooh,
They haven't figured out a way to, yeah, distinguish whether it's been AI written
mm.
or it's your original writing. Isn't that crazy?
What
Yeah,
a world we live in. Soon
I
soon
know.
soon, my guitar will start playing itself.
We already have pianos that do that. We program to play just the keys. Oh, I'm gonna be out of a job soon.
Yeah. Maybe they
Oh, well,
can do the gigs. It will take the stress away from it. My guitars will become
true.
sentient very soon. Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah. No, this has been great, Esther. I really appreciate it, and I know that the people listening to this, they're gonna take so much from this conversation. I've taken a lot out of this conversation. You've given me much more of your time than I asked for. So, I hope you're well, and I'll get you back on the show sometime in the future.
sure, anytime. Thank you. It's been really fun. So thank you for having me.